Remember, Silva's on 92 off.
Okay, planning board. We are live. We are recording. Phone lines are open. Please go for it.
Just last minute. Good evening, 92. Good evening, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Planning Board. Sorry if we're a moment or two late starting. Meeting of December 7th, 2022. We have a variety of matters on tonight. We have two public hearings. Those will start at 7 o'clock or as soon thereafter as we're able to get started. We have sub-waiver reviews on a couple of matters and site plan reviews on others. 92 South Euclid, which was on the menu, is off the menu, but we're adding tonight an add-on. What's is the name of the application De Silva?
Yeah, it's a road assignment for De Silva 55 Bayview, Amagansett. And
we'll cover that at the end. I'm going to move things just a little bit around from the way it was scheduled on the agenda that was posted. We're going to cover, except for that 92 South Euclid matter, we're going to cover everything. But since we have public hearings set for 7 o'clock, I want to try and get a few matters that I anticipate won't take a tremendous amount of time, get those done presumably before the public hearings, etc. So we're going to start with 351 Pantago Road. Sharon, we've got a lot of things on tonight, so you're going to have to be ready to jump at any moment. That's Will is on that, and Sharon's for the planning board. And is the applicant on 351? Thank you very much. Okay. So we'll hear first from the planning department, then you'll have an opportunity, and then the board will go ahead.
Excellent. Okay, this is an application to subdivide the subject parcel at the intersection of Panago Road and Spring Close Highway into two individual lots. The application is to separate the commercial bank as part of a proposed lot 1 and the residence as part of a proposed lot 2. A public hearing was held in person and electronically by video and teleconferencing, televised on local TV channel 22, and made available for live stream on the LTV website on November 16, 2022. A transcript of the hearing was posted to the town website and was to remain open until 7 days after the hearing for the purpose of receiving written comments. One member of the public spoke at the hearing, expressing favorability towards the proposed sub-waiver, but expressing concern about the lack of screening, vegetation, or a fence surrounding the bank parking lot. They noted that the entire lot is fully open with a very small setback due to the variance from the road, so that the applicant wouldn't have to repave the parking. The zoning board of appeals required a planting plan with additional screening between lot 1 and 2, and the applicant submitted a revised planting plan in response. However, the board should determine whether additional screening is required. Comments from the fire marshal dated November 16, 2022 found the submitted information sufficient and no further review necessary. In conclusion, provided the board agrees, the application is ready for approval.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant wish to be heard? No? Okay, very well. In that case, Sharon?
Yeah, no, I think, the one person who showed up seemed that he was satisfied with what the screening after we told him that it had been taken under review. And so I think this is ready for approval.
Very well. Do we all agree that it's completely ready for approval?
Yes.
Yes. Any objection? No. You are 7-0, completely ready for approval. What do we need to do just in terms of getting back here on this?
We would have a resolution prepared for you for the next meeting next week.
Very good. Okay.
We're just using the ZBA's planting plan.
Well, that was the point of discussion for the board. So This is the revised plan. Originally, it was just a single row of vegetation. There was a public comment, basically the same comment to the ZBA, and they required that a staggered row, that buffer be augmented with more screening. This is that plan. They submitted it to the planning board. You guys had reviewed it before the public hearing was scheduled and said that it was adequate. But basically, this is whether or not you feel that additional screening is enough additional screening, or if there's more that you require at this time. But it sounds like the board has a consensus. So
you're not changing your vote, are you, Randy? No. Okay. Like I said, we'll see you next week. Okay. The next item we're going to cover is the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum. The applicant is here, and again, Will, that's yours, Ian, that's yours.
Okay, this is an application for a site plan regarding the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum Storage Building. The applicant is proposing the construction of a 587.25 square foot storage shed at the rear of the property for storage of additional artifacts belonging to the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum that operates on the property. The applicant is proposing to maintain the existing barn and museum building on the property. Public hearing was held in person and electronically by video and teleconferencing, televised on LTV channel 22, and made available for live stream on the LTV website on November 16th, 2022. A transcript of the hearing was posted to the town's website after the hearing and was to remain open until November 23rd, 7 days after the hearing, for the purpose of receiving written comments. No members of the public spoke at the hearing, and no written letters have been submitted to the file to date. Comments from the fire marshal dated October 24th, 2022 have found the submitted information sufficient and no further review necessary. In conclusion, provided the board agrees, the application is ready for approval.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant wish to be heard on this?
The board has no question.
Ian,
Yeah, I think the application is ready for approval.
in that case, we all agree that the application is complete and ready for approval. Is that a hand going up with a question or an aye?
Yes, aye.
It's an aye. Okay, any nays on this?
No nays.
No nays. Okay, in that case, complete and ready for approval, and we'll have a resolution next week again. All right, thank you. Eric, what do you think, the tanks,
Yeah, I think at this point, well, how much time do we have here?
Very nice.
Yeah, it's really your call as to whether or not you, I would say to jump into either National Grid tanks or 407 preliminary, but
let's do, no, let's do the National Grid application. So again, oh no, Ed, I'm sorry, that's yours. And I mixed in with all the macabres. And Tina, that's yours. Is the applicant here on that? There you are. Okay. I didn't find this one. All right, very well. Go ahead.
Okay, National Grid, East Hampton Tanks and Equipment Building Site Plan. The last review was November 9th. The application is for two 20,000 gallon fiberglass water tanks and fencing on an approved parcel containing a public utility use, project site 2. At the last planning board meeting, the applicant clarified some things that we had been discussing regarding the proposed demineralization trailer structure that will be on site. They clarified that this indeed is a truck that will be parked as opposed to a more permanent structure. And I'm just going to show a picture of the sample that was provided to the planning department of the truck with its dimensions. So it's on the side, but there that is. And they also delineated and corrected the site plan to show a truck parking area. And I will show the detail here. And here is the truck parking area. With that clarification, we discussed with the building department and confirmed that the application can be a minor site plan application. The truck does not count as a structure that would kick them to out of the minor category. At the last planning board meeting, the board had voted to waive the public hearing should the application be considered a minor site plan application. So with that confirmed, we understand that no public hearing will be required. The other item that was discussed at the last planning board meeting was with respect to stormwater and water management capacity on site. The planning board had requested that the applicant provide stormwater drainage in excess of what existed by deepening the existing dry well facility. The applicant has submitted a storm drain detail that shows new capacity to be provided of over 6,000 gallons, which is more than 15% of the 40,000 gallons that the board had said should be sufficient. So the board should review the proposed design and determine if this proposal is meeting their expectations. We received comments from the fire marshal and found that the submitted information does not require further review. And therefore, if the board agrees, we believe that the application is ready for approval with the latest plans that we just showed, including the stormwater design and truck.
Very well. Does the applicant wish to add anything?
No.
Ian? I'm sorry.
Get a little resentful here.
No. We can turn you around.
Both are masked men, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's the problem.
recovery
That's the problem. Yes, we're like going bing, bang, boom here. This seems ready for approval to me. Thank you very much for accommodating us on the additional dry well capacity. I think that's important. And, you know, given that we've determined that the truck is not a structure, we can waive the public hearing. Let's waive the public hearing.
Well, we did that last week,
We did.
and I think it was 5-2. So there's no public hearing on this. Right, so we have a resolution also in the regular meeting, so unless anyone has anything they want to add on this.
Well, you know what, I'm gonna vote for it, but I just want the board to consider what if a restaurant, well, if they wanted to park a 28-foot truck every summer for the foreseeable future to, you know, provide refrigeration for their restaurant. I just think this is sort of we're treating the utility well, and we all need the utility, and I'm not looking to block it, but I don't think it's a great precedent.
What part of it?
Well,
The no public hearing or the truck itself?
The truck, that the building inspector said that, you know, the truck body would be, I don't know, I don't recall exactly what the truck rules are, but if any other commercial applicant asked us to put a 28-foot truck alongside their driveway every summer for the foreseeable future, I don't think we'd be open.
Well, for one thing, this is a different parcel. I mean, I drive past it regularly, and I'm forever kind of like craning my neck to see exactly where this is. And
I agree.
you know, so it's not like it's on, you know,
Downtown. Montauk.
And I think maybe we, you know, a truck would be okay if it was totally screened in a way and whatever, and we might consider
Yeah.
that if it was hidden and.
It's true, this is 17.6 acres.
Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
thing. Any restaurant that was 17.6 acres out here wouldn't be a restaurant very long.
Wedding hall.
With plenty of parking. So, all right, but, you know, I would have liked to have seen a public hearing on this, but board chose not to. So if anyone else has, anyone has anything else they want to add? If not, we go forward with the resolution.
In the matter of the application of National Grid East Hampton Tanks and Equipment Building Site Plan, minor site plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-185-2-2, minor site plan approval. I have read the findings and determination document and called for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
We could do the extensions of time.
You got here just in time for the big win. It's a good thing we don't sell tickets. No, that was fake. All right, we
You wanna do
have,
this kind of stuff?
yeah, I think we should knock some of them off. Well, it's 6:47, so we can do, we have 3 resolutions. We have Pantego Maple, we have Snyder Commercial, we have 60 Scam Hampton, and then I have 3 boards of review. Eric, does that last board of review, does that matter if we do it now? It's the 55.
No, not at all.
There's
If that's what you like,
Yeah,
sure.
okay. And the applicant knows about it, and so.
Yep.
All right, because that was my concern. All right, so let's take care of the regular meeting things now, and then we'll come back to work session matters after the public hearing. So first thing let's do is Pantego Maple Lot Line Subdivision, which is A. See? There
Nicely
you go.
done.
There you go.
Nicely done. In the matter of the application of Pantego Maple Lot Line Modification, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-188-1-16.2, 17.1, and 21, extension of time. I have read the resolution and call for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Passed, 7-0. Next is the Snyder Phase Commercial. Sharon, it's
Yep.
yours.
In the matter of the application of Schneider Phase Commercial Site Plan Special Permit, tax map number 300-143-1-12.3, 12.4, and 12.5. This is for an extension of time. I have read through the resolution and move this adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed, 7-0. Okay, next is 60 Skim Hampton. Ruth, it's yours. You don't have to read the whole thing.
In the matter of the application of 60 Skim Hampton Road Artist Studio, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-189-3-19-tot.1. I've read the resolution and move for its, regarding the scheduling of public hearing. I read the resolution and move for its adoption.
What's the date on the public hearing?
The public hearing will be
Item 2.
January 11th.
What two?
January 11, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed, 7-0. We have 3 boards of review. I'll read those. First board of review is the request of Stephen Allen for a building permit on the premises located at 9 Eau Claire Street in Springs, lots 1 through 5 and 31 to 35, block 23, urban renewal parcel 97, Suffolk County tax map number 300-62-4-13.1. The amount of the undertaking is $22,500. The work to be performed is an asphalt top course 24 feet wide, 597 linear feet. The limits of the road improvement are along Lincoln Avenue as follows: pave along Lincoln Avenue, starting at the westerly limit of the intersection of Florence Street and Lincoln Avenue, and continuing west toward Eau Claire Street for a distance of 597 linear feet, with a minimum thickness of 1.5 inches of New York State Type 6 asphalt top course, as directed by the town engineer, please. The town engineer must be notified at least 72 hours, but no more than 1 week before commencement of the work. I move for the adoption of this board of review. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Adopted, 7-0. Next, the board of review at the request of Brooklyn Timber LLC, Isaac 2C. Hope I didn't mispronounce your name, sir. 42 Lincoln Street in Springs, lots 27 to 34, block 34. Suffolk County tax map 300-95-4-21.1. The amount of the undertaking in this matter is $22,500, and the required work is drainage installation of 250 feet. This is on Lincoln Street. Drainage installation of 250 feet, sub-base preparation of 50 feet, asphalt top course 24 feet wide, 270 linear feet. Limits of the road improvement are along Lincoln Street as follows: install 1 leaching catch basin, 8 feet diameter by 12 feet deep on the easterly side of Lincoln Street, approximately 250 feet south from the intersection of Harbor Boulevard with the shoulder of the road, and as directed by the town engineer. The leaching catch basin shall be traffic bearing and have a 24-inch open cast iron frame and grate. The draining structure shall be located a minimum of 50 feet from any existing private water supply well. Work shall include asphalt pavement and shoulder restoration as required. All construction restoration work shall conform to the subdivision standards of the town code. Number 2, prepare, stabilize, and fine grade the subbase for the 50-foot diameter cul-de-sac on Lincoln Street for a distance of 50 square feet as directed by the town engineer. And number 3, pave a minimum of 1.5 inches of New York State Type 6 asphalt top course along Lincoln Street, starting at Harbor Boulevard and continuing south for a distance of 270 feet, including construction of a 50-foot diameter cul-de-sac as directed by the town engineer. Town engineer must be notified at least 72 hours, but no more than 1 week before commencement of the work. Move for the adoption of this board review. Is there a second?
Same question. I see it uses the word town engineer.
Yes, well, that's the town engineer, in
Consulting.
fact.
What do we have?
Well, no, as I was one might say, attorney, in fact. In other words, he is the town engineer who is appointed by the town, but he's not a town employee like we used to have. Okay, anyway, I move for the adoption of the board of review. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed 7-0. Finally, the request of Gabriel De Silva for building permit of the premises located at 55 Bayview Avenue in in Amagansett, one of the 18 Bayview Avenues in this town, in Amagansett. That's lots 143 to 150, block number 8, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-106-1-13. The undertaking is in the amount of $20,000, and the undertaking requires sub-base soil of 301 feet, asphalt base course repairs 20 feet wide at 120 feet, linear feet, and asphalt top course 20 feet wide for 300 feet. Units of the road improvement are all along Bayview Avenue as follows. Prepare a stabilized soil base starting at the edge of the existing asphalt pavement, approximately 1,600 linear feet from the intersection of Lazy Point Road and continuing north for a distance of 301 linear feet by 20 feet wide as directed and to the satisfaction of the town engineer. 2, perform asphalt base course paving repairs and widening to a width of 20 feet along Bayview Avenue, starting at the northerly lot line of urban renewal parcel 20, approximately 1,100 linear feet from the intersection of Lazy Point Road and continuing south for a distance of 120 linear feet as is necessary. The asphalt pavement work shall involve placing a minimum of 2.5 inches compacted thickness of New York State Department of Transportation Type 3 asphalt binder course or New York State Department of Transportation Type 6F asphalt top course as directed by the town engineer. Perform asphalt top course paving along Bayview Avenue, starting at the northerly lot line of urban renewal parcel 20, approximately 1,100 linear feet from the intersection of Lazy Point Road and continuing south for a distance of 300 linear feet. The asphalt paving work shall involve placing a minimum of 1.5 inches compacted thickness of New York State Department of Transportation Type 6F asphalt top course as directed by the town engineer. Town engineer must be notified at least 72 hours, but no more than 2 weeks before the commencement of all work. I move for the adoption of this board of review. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Question,
Any-
I just
There
asked.
is a motion on, there is a motion on.
So we've had a couple of, comments about Bayview lately. One was the beach end. This doesn't affect the,
No, and in fact, I'll show you on the aerial. Give me 1 second.
Withdraw the motion and we'll ask it.
Well, normally we can be discussing that for a second, I think.
Can you see that? Hopefully. Okay,
usually we do second and then discussion.
yeah, so this came back to you, it was in front of you before. Previously, the road assignment was to continue the asphalt pavement on, basically continue Bayview Avenue up northwestward. As you can clearly see on the aerial here, and anyone who's been down there knows that there's extensive areas of wetlands along here. That road assignment was going to result in further intrusion of the asphalt roadway into the area of wetlands. If you look at that aerial, that green line is now the new road assignment, which is all existing areas of asphalt. Begins at the northern end of this property, which is UR parcel 20, 55 Bayview, and then continues down southward. The idea is to clean the road, stabilize it, add new pavement to basically level out the road pretty much even with that lot, and then continue it down with a lower thickness of asphalt, basically to even out. There's a dip in the road there where water collects, but that is basically the new road assignment that was modified by the town engineer. It covers areas that were already paved. So as a side note, although I won't go into all the details of it, but we're working to find a solution, perhaps an urban renewal map modification that will prevent further intrusion of that road into the wetlands. There's a number of options. I don't want to go into all the details yet because I don't want to say something that's not possible. But basically, this road assignment was redone so that this applicant who has completed construction of the home can get a CO without furthering the areas of asphalt into the areas of wetlands.
There was a comment we had about the artist studio, the neighbor who said they would be extending a road in the wetlands. This sort of takes care of that.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
The idea is to prevent the further expansion of the road until we can figure out a solution that can, mitigate impacts to the wetlands.
And this is an area where there are houses, and so you can use it, right?
Yes.
Okay, as I said, I move for adoption of that board of review. Is there a second? Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's 7. And with that, 7 o'clock on the walls, just hit 7 o'clock. All right, let's do Glen Valley first. Ian?
Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter this matter may be heard. Consider the application of Glen Valley Associates LTD, preliminary subdivision approval pursuant to Chapter 220, subdivision of land in Chapter 193, open space for the East Hampton Town Code to divide a 107,795 square foot, 2.4746 acre parcel into 2 lots. The proposed lot 1 will contain 59,369 square feet. Proposed lot 2 will contain 48,399 square feet. The parcel contains an existing 50-foot wide scenic easement and a 5-foot wide utility easement. The parcel is located on the south side of Mulford Avenue and the east side of Old Northwest Road, East Hampton, and are situated in an A resident zoning district within the Water Recharge Overlay District, as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton, and are identified on Suffolk County tax map as parcels number 300-136-1-17 through 30. Subject application is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. The survey prepared by Saska Surveying, dated revised June 7th, 2022, is available for inspection at the Planning Board offices, 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton.
Most of what he.
There we go.
Okay, they're back.
Matt, when did it cut out?
I'm sorry. Yes. I would say about 30 seconds ago, maybe smidge longer. It happened last night again, or it happened last night. I'm sorry about that. But I would say about 30 to 45 seconds. Ian was just wrapping up when it went out, I believe.
What do you think? Does he need to reread it, or?
I wouldn't think so. I think you've got the gist of it across. I mean, if you want to reread the last paragraph or something, that would be
I was
sufficient.
hoping you'd ask. Thank you.
So enthusiastic about it.
Just the one. Okay. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person or by agent or by attorney or by call into the live stream or by written comment addressed to the Planning Board, 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937. Comments may also be submitted to the Planning Board by email to planningboard@ehamptony.gov. All comments must be received by the Planning Board by the date and time of the public hearing, dated November 9th, 2022. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
That was about 30 seconds. So do we have jurisdiction?
Yes, we do, Chair. I reviewed the affidavit of service imposing, and it does appear that it was properly noticed.
Very good. Want to give us a little background?
Okay, so as you can see, this is an application to subdivide an existing parcel that's 107,795 square feet in lot area located on Mulford Avenue and Old Northwest Road in East Hampton. The parcel is located within the Water Recharge Overlay District. It was originally reviewed in a pre-preliminary form before being reviewed in a preliminary form, as you see here, by the planning board. Yep. In the course of the review, the application was, the board agreed to, the parcel contains an existing 50-foot wide scenic easement on the eastern portion of the lot that abuts Old Northwest Road and a 5-foot wide utility easement in the town of East Hampton on the north, south, and eastern property line. The applicant's proposed subdivision would result in 2 conforming lots. When the application was reviewed by the planning board, they agreed to assume lead agency status, which they did. The application was required to submit an urban renewal map modification application to address the proposal's potential changes to parcel 60 in the old file map study, and it was required a more comprehensive survey be submitted that showed the location of all the surrounding wells and sanitary systems in a conforming sanitary system envelope. The applicant submitted all these things. They submitted an urban renewal map modification application. So, and that's kind of how we got here today.
That, I'm going to ask if there are any members of the public who wish to be heard with respect to this application. 3 minutes, and then we'll go and see if anybody else is seeking time to speak.
Before my 3 minutes begins, let me just say, Chairman, that I enjoyed listening to the urban renewal roadwork assignments and informs the public actually of that process. Usually you just mention it briefly without the details. The details actually very interesting.
Well, I'm glad we were of value.
Okay. Now you can start your answers. All right. My name is David Booth. I reside in the Springs.
Address?
6 Montgomery Avenue.
Thank you.
I have recently been following or have become directly involved in several property development matters before either the town board or the planning board, where I have found, and because I had found that prior, what I would call charitably loose practices of one or the other of the boards or the building department may have made it difficult or impossible to fully enforce provisions of the town code concerning public scenic easements, open space reserves, maintaining public street rights of way unobstructed, etc. With that in mind, I decided to take a closer look at this subdivision project. The subject property development is somewhat unusual, if not unique. It's a 2.5 acre tract that constitutes one large undivided urban renewal parcel established in the 1977 Old Filed Map Study Plan. It's located in the Residence A zoning district as well, where the minimum lot size is 40,000 square feet. However, because it's located in a water recharge overlay district, the town's open space preservation law prevails and applies to perhaps allow even a superseding of the 40,000 lot size minimum, because as you all know, the process of doing a open space subdivision requires you to establish what the yield would be without that requirement. And then you may allow lots to be smaller, provided that it is necessary to provide the necessary open space. In this case, because of the water recharge overlay district, the town's open space preservation law requires a 25% set aside of the property to be preserved as open space. The code definition of what is open space pursuant to that section to satisfy the requisite for preserving open space specifies that the open space land being set aside shall not be land which is within the boundaries of a house lot or other building lot shown on the subdivision plat. That's important because if you look at the plan, and as was just recited, the entire 2.5 acres is being divided into 2 lots. And the total of those 2 lots is specified in the notice and the correspondence and on the plan adds up to the full amount of the 2.5 acres. So that does not comply with the requirements of the code. Quote, Land which is within the boundaries of a house lot or other building lot shown on the subdivision
15
plat.
seconds. Go, 15 seconds.
Land which is within the boundaries of a house lot or other building does not satisfy the open space requirement. As I reviewed this proposed subdivision map today, I did not discern that the minimum of 25% of preserved open space has been designed as constituting a separate lot outside the boundaries of the two building lots. Is that a mistake? I believe it is.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to stop. And I'm gonna see if there's anybody else who wishes to speak. And if there's not, then I'll let you come back for another 3 minutes.
Okay.
How's that?
Excellent.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard with respect to this application?
Yeah, I can, but I can just let him finish.
Well, I'm sorry?
I'm here as the applicant, but I can let him finish before.
No, I'll do it. What I ordinarily do is give everybody 3 minutes.
Understood.
And I'm checking out with Matt to see, do we have anybody in line?
Yes, we have one caller, yes.
All right, let's see if they're here on that particular application.
Okay, unmuting last four digits of 2740.
Hello? Hello? I can't hear the person. Can you do something with the volume, Matt? Hello?
Very soft spoken.
Caller?
Caller? Ending 2740?
Hello?
Okay, call. Hang on, Sam.
Yeah, okay. With
I'll
Matt.
tell you what,
Thank
Sam. Sam, go ahead, proceed. They hung up.
They hung up? Okay, and you have nobody else on queue? Matt?
0 additional callers. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, Mr. Buda, you can resume for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Ordinarily, the open space is designated as a separate reserve lot. According to the town code provisions that are applicable to this matter, a minimum of 25% open space must be established on the subdivision map as one or more separate conservation easement areas, and the extent and nature of that easement should also be specified in a separately recorded conservation easement instrument, granting and the limiting or restrictive easements to the town or to a private conservation corporation or land trust approved by the planning board. Although the proposed subdivision map does indicate that more than 25% of the two building lots would be encumbered by scenic easements, I did not see anything indicating that these scenic easements areas would be excluded from the confines of the two building lots, or that they would be established by separate grant in favor of the town or a private conservation corporation. The applicant's initial filing letter dated April 1st misstates that there is an existing 50-foot wide scenic and 5-foot wide, he called it utility easement, I think it's really a road widening easement, in place. In fact, what he must have meant and been referring to is the fact that the old filed map study plan requires that such easements be granted to the town as a condition precedent to the issuance of any building permit. As far as I can determine, that requirement has not yet come to fruition and are not yet existing easements. I do understand that there is an ongoing parallel process for modifying the urban renewal map to conform to the provisions of the subdivision when it is granted. There may also be imposed a roadwork monetary contribution requirement because there will now be 2 UR parcels where there was only one in existence before when the special road district for this area was created. I would suggest that the planning board instruct the town consulting engineer to carefully review the provisions of the UR road improvement district map for map 284 and map 483 to determine whether or not any additional monetary contribution should be required to be paid to the town, because at the time of the creation of that taxing district, the 2 proposed lots constituted only 1 UR parcel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 40 seconds.
I'll say it.
No, we don't bank those. Okay. Does anyone else have any desire to be heard right now with respect to the Glen Valley Associates application? In that case, if the applicant would like to be heard. And also 3 minutes.
Yep. Good evening, members of the board. Brian Locassi with the Adam Miller Group, attorney for the applicant. As you know, we've been before you for a few months now, and I respectfully submit that this does meet the 25% lot open space requirement. We had reviewed this with the board, with the planning department, and we set that aside. We addressed concerns regarding sloping, covenanting the 20% sloping within that set aside open space area. So we think that respectively, we're creating two conforming lots. It meets all the criteria of the code and subdivision requirements, and we respectfully ask that we proceed with an approval for the application.
Is nobody else seeking to be heard on this? Ian, if you'd like to.
Motion to close?
Is there a second on the motion to close? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Okay, next is Pete's Garden Center. Lou.
Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Pantego Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the application of Pete's Garden Center and Service Commercial Site Plan Special Permit Approval pursuant to Articles 5 and 6 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to construct an outdoor storage yard with 3 on-site parking spaces, 7 parking spaces in the right-of-way, sidewalk, and additional fencing. The parcel contains 8,200 square feet, 0.1882 acres, and is located on the northerly side of South Euclid Avenue, Montauk, and is situated in a central business zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton and are identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcels number 300-49-1-13.3. Subject application is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. A survey prepared by James P. Walsh, Land Surveyor, PC, dated revised December 22nd, 2021, and a site plan prepared by Edward Armis Engineering, PLC, dated revised January 12, 2022, are available for inspection at the Planning Board offices, 300 Pantego Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York. The public hearing will be held live and in person by the Planning Board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, www.ltveh.org. The public shall be permitted to appear in person, but may also provide comments on the matter being heard by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person or by agent or by attorney or by call-in to the live stream or by written comment addressed to the Planning Board, 300 Pantego Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937. Comments may also be submitted to the Planning Board by email to planningboard@easthamptonny.gov. All comments must be received by the Planning Board by the date and time of the public hearing, dated November 16, 2022. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you, Lou. You have jurisdiction?
Yes, we do. I reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and it does appear that it was properly noticed.
Very well. Tina?
Thank you. This is an application to construct an outdoor storage yard with 3 on-site parking spaces, 7 parking spaces in the right-of-way, sidewalk and additional fencing on a cleared parcel zoned central business in downtown Montauk. The applicant is proposing a garden center use with an associated commercial landscaping use. It's an extension of the neighboring property known as Pete's Potting Shed. There's no principal building structure present. The site's currently used for retail and outdoor display of trees, shrubbery, plants, and parking. The applicant received their ZBA approval in August 2022 to allow 7 parking spaces in the right-of-way where on-site parking would have been required. The fire marshal has confirmed that the project is ADA compliant, and the application, we understand, we recommended they went to the ARB to get approval from that board.
Very well. Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard with respect to this application? Matt, do you have anybody in queue to
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
call us? In that case, Lou, if you'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Well, the applicant usually only speaks if there's been somebody who spoke and they want to rebut, but is that a pass?
That's passed.
Thank you. Thank you.
I make a motion to close the public.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Okay, and with that, we will now return to our regularly scheduled programming, which will be the site plan reviews. We'll do them in the order they appear on the agenda. Monroe Osborne first.
I am recused of this application, so I'm going to excuse myself.
Oh, okay, very well. We have 2 recusals. Yeah, no, I'm just concerned that Ian was the person who was assigned on this originally. For board. Who covered it last time? Did I cover? I must have covered it. Okay. And is the applicant here? Okay, very well. In that case, take it away, please.
Okay. This is the Monroe minor subdivision modification. The applicant is requesting a modification of the sub-waiver to clear the record and seeking planning board determination on the appropriate access for the site as recommended by the town of East Hampton Attorney's Office. The subject parcel and its neighboring lots were subject to Monroe subdivision in 1974, which was modified in 1976. I am going to just scroll to the aerial photos so you can see the, sorry, it's all the way down.
You will need to share the screen too.
Oh, I'm not sharing the screen. Sorry about that. Thank you. Minor details. You should see in a moment a PDF of the map.
Yep.
So the location is 116 3 Mile Harbor Hog Creek Highway in Springs. As you can see here, there are currently 2 driveways in use, and that was the subject of this application, to clarify which one is appropriate or what's the appropriate review. So I'm just going to go through my report now. The planning board should take note of public comments that were attached to the package that went out for review from the public and the applicant's attorney regarding the interpretations of historical records and provision of access to the site. The planning department's position is that the record is somewhat ambiguous. We had written that in a September 21st memo, and that has not changed since then. The memo we provided does go through some of the historical documents that were the reason we thought the record was ambiguous. So I'm going to try to walk you through those in a way that's not too confusing. So in the apparent discrepancy really started with the resolution that's on the screen. This is the 1974 approval resolution that was issued, and condition C indicates that a 50-foot scenic easement is to be mapped except for driveway access. And then condition E states there's going to be mutual easements for a common driveway. And there was a maps accompanying this determination that showed the 2 driveways remaining intact. Then in 1976, there was additional correspondence and the approval was amended. And an additional map dated 2 days after the amended approval showed that the access that was in 1974 was now just shown as one driveway. And it is, you know, here in this amended Monroe subdivision waiver approval, it's saying that the revised map must be submitted to show proper access. It doesn't specify what that proper access is, but it does seem that there's something going on there.
It does say in all respects, the former approval is reaffirmed.
That, right,
Okay.
exactly. So it was kind of, you know, it's not crisp to us that there was a firm resolution. There was one more piece of evidence that I didn't go through in my email, which was a 1977, which I'm going to scroll to now, the recording of the scenic easement on the property. You know, there's 50-foot scenic easement on the property where the driveways go through. In the recording of that easement, only the one driveway is mentioned. Now, the other driveway was existing at the time. I don't know if that matters, but there was only one mentioned in the easement, and I didn't find it quickly, so I'm going to just continue. Also regarding the driveway, the planning department reviewed the topography. The applicants have not submitted a survey that show the grades or slopes on the property, but in looking into it, it appears that the planning board requirements for the grade of the driveway could be met. There was a little bit of the applicant's attorney saying that it looked like it could not be based on our interpretation, just using the topography available to the planning department. We think that the planning board standards could be met. Normally, regarding a change in circumstance, it requires something to happen that requires the planning board to reconsider its original decision. However, because of the ambiguity of the record, the planning department was putting to you that perhaps that's not the appropriate standard here. So in conclusion, we suggested that the planning board should consider the potential error in the resolution and decide what the appropriate access would be. We did want to note that it is generally the policy of the board and the recommendation of the planning department to have subdivisions provide common access ways, and this has the benefits of minimizing disturbance and to natural areas, as well as minimizing conflict points on roadways that serve the properties. However, given the ambiguity we just went through, thought it was fruitful for the board to discuss. Yes.
Is it possible for you to put up on the board the language that the planning department considers to be ambiguous?
So the bit that we thought was ambiguous was the difference between the July 74 resolution, where it's clear here that there are 2 driveways being approved, right?
Well, let's just a sec there. 2 driveways, because there's one.
Bigger?
Sorry, I can see it just fine.
There we go.
The submission and acceptance of scenic easement 50 feet in depth, except for driveway access. Right?
There's one from Copices and one from Tremont.
Yes, yes.
50 feet in depth for the frontage on Copices Lane and 3 Mile Harbor Creek Highway, except for driveway access pursuant to, the provisions of section 347 of the GML by the town board of the town of East Hampton. All right, so that, and you're saying that conflicts with
Condition E,
which is manual easements, so that, mutual easements, I was wondering about manual. Mutual easements, so that there will be one concrete driveway, common, sorry. Okay, for the 2 lots on 3 Mile Harbor Creek on the southerly property line. Certified copy recorded instrument creating this access is to be filed with building department for building permits or C of O issue.
I don't see those as in conflict.
Well, why not?
Because the scenic easement is along the whole frontage. So in order for there to be a common driveway, there has to be an exception for the easement not going the whole way on both streets. There has to be a common driveway next to the easement.
Let's, before we get into it, let's hear from the applicant, on this. I just, just one second before the applicant goes. So the language that was read, from the 1976, would it be considered an amendment? Says that the resolution adopted July 10th, 1974 is reaffirmed in all respects with the addition that a revised map must be submitted to show this realignment, proper access location onto 3 Mile Harbor Hog Creek and Copaceous Lane, and 50-foot scenic easement along 3 Mile Harbor Hog Creek.
Sam, just to clarify, the realignment that was approved in the modification was the lot lines. The 76 revision was not, it didn't have anything to do with the access.
So this might be considered surplusage within this resolution? They're just mentioning it?
Well, I think they're saying we approved the reconfigured lot lines between the lots,
Right.
and everything else is the same.
And,
That's how I would read that.
one quick question. Do we know if the revised map was submitted to show the realignment?
So this map here is dated January 1976, January 16, 1976. So it's 2 days after the amended resolution. So it does look like this was correct.
They met that condition.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to clear the brush, the 76, unless anyone disagrees, the 76 resolution is really not an issue here. It's the 74 resolution, which you had up a moment ago, which would be probably useful to have in front of us. Bigger.
I'm trying to keep up.
One more. All right, that should be, okay. All right, with that, if the applicant would like to be heard.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Richard Whalen, attorney for the applicant, Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer PLLC. The applicant is Peconic Land Trust. As was indicated in the memo, the property here was donated to Peconic Land Trust in 2018 to be used for housing for employees of the land trust. Melanie Cirillo, who's vice president of the trust, would like to have been here tonight, but she has to go out of town and she's leaving early tomorrow morning, and it was a bit too much for her to make it over here for a planning board meeting. So she would have liked to be here, but she can't make it.
An early question.
Sure.
Not to interrupt. So the land trust, based on Tina's memo, it said the land trust is seeking to clarify. I'm going to clarify right at the outset. Let me clarify. Okay.
My reading of the record on this is not much different from David Buddha's. I think the planning board intended to require a common driveway on the two lots on through Harbor Hog Creek Highway. So that means Peconic Land Trust, I wasn't involved with this application was submitted, but they asked for a modification, I guess, at least they asked for like a clarification / modification, but they did ask for a modification, and I regard this as a modification request. I think it was clear enough that the planning board intended a lot line, a common driveway on the southern part of the property. My argument is, though, that the planning board in the early 1970s, they did not have topographical information. They didn't look at topo. There's no mention of it. They don't have a topographical map. In fact, we don't even have one in front of you right now today. And the driveway that would be created to get, so the house that's on the subject lot, it's on a pretty prominent knoll. If you go in there, it's really, decent hill for that part of the, Springs. And it's particularly steep on the southerly side, which is towards where the neighbor's drive, I'll call it the neighbor's driveway, because it's not currently a common driveway, where the neighbor's driveway is. The driveway there was a driveway at one point that had been cut up there. I think if we do have a topo survey, and if you may want one to prove this point, I'm pretty sure it's going to exceed 12% slope. I've walked it. That's a fairly steep driveway. And my own calculation based on my measuring the distance, we know what the topo lines are pretty accurately from the GIS. and you have that on your memo. So we know what the difference in elevation is. The question is, what's the distance? And the distance from the merger with the neighbor's driveway to the foot of the parking area, in my estimation, that's about a 14% grade. So if we want to know for sure, we'd have to get a topo map.
Could you put up the photo? with the
Sure, I was
topo
gonna try
lines?
to bring up the GIS, but yeah, I can put up the,
The
oh,
one that's on page 3 of the memo.
yeah.
Yeah, which is GIS with topo.
And then, Mr. Whalen, if you could point out what
Yeah.
you're talking.
That would be helpful.
Sorry, we lost our connection, so I just have to.
We'll get it up for you in a second.
That's fine.
Yep. So the neighbor has put in a driveway with Belgian block curbing. I drove on it just to get access to the property. And it's pretty narrow. I mean, I took a photograph actually with my car parked there, and you could probably barely get another car by. So we have the color one with the topo. Oh, that's also useful, but
That layer has a lot of
Oh, okay.
information. It takes a little bit of time to load.
Slowly.
so there was at one point a driveway was cut here. I don't know when or how long, but there was a driveway cut there. And if you met, and so
That shows on our photo.
Yeah, it shows up here.
It's coming, yeah.
Oh.
So these are
It-
1-foot contour lines.
when you get up and close to the house, there's a parking area. It's kind of concrete aggregate, concrete with a lot of pebbles and gravel in it. It's pretty steep, and it's definitely impermeable, and it's pitched downhill in all directions, but particularly to the south. So I'm calling that area the parking area. That's not really the driveway. That's a parking area. If you go from the edge of the neighbor's driveway uphill to the edge of the parking area, I think that's about a 14% grade. We need a survey to prove that, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be over 12%. And it's, the parking area itself, as I said, is concrete aggregate. It's impervious. It's going to pitch water downhill, and it's going to go into the common driveway, into the neighbor's driveway. So I just don't think that's a suitable way to go. You might, depending upon what the site distance issues are on 3 Mill Harbor Road, you might have a compelling reason to say, look, we have to have a common driveway here. But there are no compelling reasons to, and I don't want to argue, I'm not arguing that you shouldn't have a common driveway because site distance is fine. In general principle, on a major road, you generally do want to have common driveways. But just so we address that issue, this section of 3 Mill Harbor Road is pretty straight. There are no driveways particularly close on the east side of the road to either driveway, as you can see. The nearest to the south is here. Nearest north is way up there. On the west side of the road, that's the town's Marina Lane property. It's 17 acres. There are no driveway conflicts on the other side of the road. So there's no compelling reason from a public safety or site distance reason to do this. And my argument basically is to do that change, you'd be violating your code, which requires that driveways not exceed a grade of 12%. So I think you should leave things as they are. We'll obviously have some sort of a conflict with the neighbor because they put in Belgian block and so forth. We do have a right to use, just to be clear, we do have a right under the deed by which that neighbor's property was conveyed out back in the 70s. We have a right to use their driveway. We could use it if you demanded it or we insisted upon it. But, still, you're going to have some sort of conflict with the neighbor. They're going to have to remove their Belgian block curbing. You're going to put in a new driveway. The driveway is going to be steep. It's going to push sediment and water down into their driveway. I would just say leave well enough alone.
Can I ask you a question?
What if you came in here, didn't go up?
Randy, could you move all like so we can see?
Don't go up the steep slope, but come in here to this.
Well, they have a connection, or at least they used to. At least it shows on our
Yeah. well,
in
you
a
could-
shadow on the
No, no.
photo.
You could avoid the steep slope and connect with the other drive.
I think that David Buddha recommended that. And with all due respect, it does not make sense. You have to come into the driveway, the existing neighbor's driveway, abruptly make a sharp left turn, drive to the existing driveway, and make a sharp right turn. I've been out there. You'd have 2 sharp turns, one of them close to the road itself. It wouldn't be safe. It would not make sense. You'd reduce the gradient, but your driveway would do this.
What about the land trust? What is their motivation here?
And for taking the property,
No, for asking for the change.
they want to get a C of O. And when they went in for the C of O, I didn't, they did it on their own, but when they went for the C of O, I think they were told, originally there was an issue with the scenic easement. Was the scenic easement properly granted? Somehow they were told that, well, it looks like you're supposed to have a common driveway, share a common driveway, and you're not.
And is it a CO so it can be sold?
No.
it
They
can be
want to use it
occupied.
to be occupied. They want to use it for staff.
What's being used for now? Is it vacant?
When I was there was no one there. There was stuff outside. I don't know if it's currently being occupied. I don't know.
How big is that lot?
That I don't know.
An acre, I think.
65,000, right?
Acre and a half.
I don't know.
1.733.
1.7.
The house is set, you up at the house by the hill, you're pretty far, you're set back pretty far from the Freeman Harbor Road.
Yeah.
But that's pretty straightforward. And if you need me to establish that, or if you think otherwise, that establish the other side that the driveway does or does not exceed the 12%, the alternate driveway, which is this one, which would be probably the only thing.
That's the one question mark I have, because it does show on the photo. I don't know, it doesn't show on that, but the one in our report that I'm looking at, you can see that, there was de facto anyway.
It looks like it was used, and I think in talking to, I don't think it was used since the Peconic Land Trust has owned the property, but it does look like there was a driveway there at one point in time. It's overgrown. There is some low shrubbery coming up there. It's still definitely discernible.
And that wouldn't have, in terms of getting from the common driveway into the parking area for the house, it doesn't have that left-right issue that you described before, sharp left, sharp right, or sharp right.
Right, and because it sort of
kind of
slants away or merges, and that would be the safest way if you were to do this. The safest way to merge with the neighbor's driveway would probably be to use that driveway.
And you didn't walk that, and not that you're giving expert testimony, but you didn't walk that, did you?
The older driveway? Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
That's where the hill is.
Yeah, it's steep. It's relatively steep.
So that may be the reason that it's faded out and maybe not used is the pitch.
And what problem do you have for not using that driveway? You mentioned something about drainage and.
Yeah, I guess, the land trust would, first of all, they have to reopen it, all right? And they would have some sort of conflict with it. And the neighbor obviously won't be happy because they already have Belgian block curbing lining that driveway, their driveway. I think the land trust would like to get a CMO with the least possible cost.
So I have a question. How long has the northern driveway been in use?
Oh, that was the existing driveway. This predates the subdivision. That was the original driveway to the house and still is today.
So before 1974?
Yes.
And then in 74, when they did the subdivision, they put in that newer, wider.
Yeah, this came in, I believe, when the house on that lot was built.
So
this is the new driveway.
So do you know when last this shorter driveway was used or operated? I visited the site when this first came up, and yeah, it's rough, and it is, if you stand on the per se common driveway and look up, it's above your head. It's way up there. But and do you know when that was used?
I think I did look at aerials. I think when this was sent to me, although I'm trying to think if that was before or after the Suffolk County GIS went offline. And since GIS been offline, I can't check. I can't look at aerials over different periods of time. I don't know the answer to the question.
I don't think you necessarily, if you designed a driveway coming from the common driveway strip.
Thank you.
I don't think it necessarily has to do a hard left, hard right. It's possible to come in off the road in one, it's a design question. I think the board that approved this originally they didn't delineate the driveway. They just said use the common driveway and then you figure out the driveway to the house, the new driveway to the house.
Let me ask Tina,
Yeah.
what, if we did this, forget what happened or didn't happen in 74. If this would have come to us today, what would the planning department recommend?
Common driveway.
Common driveway?
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
Although, can I clarify? I just, in fact, this is not further analysis. This is just clarifying, Rick's point, just because, what we prepared for you, doesn't seem accurate, an accurate reflection of what the applicant is asking. Your contention is not that there was ambiguity, that it was ever required in that subdivision, whether or not it was a single driveway or a common driveway. What you're saying is that, a common driveway was required. What you're saying is the change of circumstances is the fact that the topography was not, okay.
That's exactly right.
Was not available to the planning board at that time. So what they're, again, if I'm stating their position correctly, there is a change of circumstances because that topography was not considered. And then furthermore, that topography is prohibitive of installing a driveway coming off of the common driveway.
How do we know that topography wasn't considered?
Well, I'm just saying that that's their position because I'm trying to direct the conversation accordingly. So it's not a question of, the applicant is not contesting, just because what we prepared for you said there was a question as to whether or not it was a common driveway or a single driveway. I'm just clarifying that the applicant,
But at the time they reviewed it in 74, the committee was a guy named Sid Miller, who was, worked for the county, was a very savvy guy. I'm sure he walked the site. So I don't think it's fair to say that the topography wasn't taken into consideration.
yeah, and I'm not commenting on that. I'm just trying to clarify.
Maybe the 1 foot contour lines weren't, used. That doesn't mean it wasn't taken into account.
Let me just say, George C. Miller was junior was I'm sorry.
Tina, could you do me a favor and just bring back the language of the original resolution?
Sure.
Okay.
This is the 1978 aerial, just, looks like.
Yeah, so there you
there.
can see clearly there was something there in
Okay, yeah.
78.
It looks like the main driveway in 78.
Sure does.
They may have just cleared it at that time. That's why it's so conspicuous.
Yeah, I just want to thank
May have
Eric
been
for
in the
saying that,
winter.
because I feel like we're talking about a very different issue right now than we were asked to review, so this is new.
But can I just address?
Sam, you wanted to see.
The resolution, the one with the highlight.
1974, okay.
The one with the highlight. Yeah.
Bigger.
Pat. Except for driveway. Two lots. On the southerly property.
Yeah, that's why I say I do think we need a modification.
There's no argument of.
Yeah, and I'm conceding, I can see
That's what
that.
they meant. That's what
Okay,
they
so
meant.
then it is a,
Yeah, but let me just say, in response to what Randy said, first of all, George Sid Miller Jr., remember, I knew him too.
Yeah.
Great guy. I don't know that he was committee on this because usually the committee was the one who walked it. We don't know that George Sid walked the property.
He's in the correspondence in.
Yeah, I think he was the vice chair, or he might have even been the chair at that time.
It says committee.
All right, bottom line is, there are no topo maps in the file at the time, and there is no discussion in the record that exists of topography. And just in regard to what the planning department just said, if the application were to come in today, planning department said, well, we require a common driveway. Well, maybe on the northern property line, but I don't know that you would have to look at how you would get access to the existing house. And although as a default provision, yes, you're going to want a common driveway. If requiring the common driveway because of the position of the house, requires you to put an access to it that exceeds 12%, I'm not so sure that that's the decision you would have reached.
Rick, what about Randy's idea, instead of keeping the common driveway, but then veering off from that common driveway almost immediately as you enter it to go to the house?
That's what he's saying.
I don't think you want to make a turn.
No turn. What he was saying is if you place the direction of
You could
the,
go like this. First of all, it's a design thing. We should look at alternative designs. But you could go like this.
You know,
That's what I'm,
it's already disturbed. Let me ask you another question. The reason for preferring the common driveway from the planning department's point of view is fewer curb cuts?
Yeah, and preservation of existing vegetation.
Well, existing, if
Well,
it was,
in
if
this
you were
case,
dealing, if you were dealing with undisturbed land.
Right.
Well, it would be revegetated.
Yeah, well.
Existing
right,
driveway,
but Randy, but
Yeah,
if
it
you do
exists.
your idea
yeah.
and you revegetate that second driveway, then there's no difference in terms of
Right,
vegetation.
sooner,
I don't know.
maybe a few feet, maybe one way or the
Yeah,
other.
not substantially different. That's one of the other issues is if you make the driveway longer to reduce the gradient, maybe it's not quite as long as the existing driveway, but at that point, you're almost at a 0 point in terms of your clearance.
Can you draw back, like, so we can see more of that section of 3 Mile Harbor?
Yeah, let me just turn off the topo
So there's the
and it slows it down.
Vacant land on the other side.
I'm more interested in seeing how many more curb cuts there are in that general area.
Yeah. I gotta turn this off, but once it's so sensitive, once it starts, it won't stop.
Okay, now, how many curb cuts? What's the road that, right where your cursor is, go a little further.
That's Will Curl. Will
What's
Curl
that? That's
Highway.
Will Curl? Okay.
Yeah, to the left.
What I think.
Several common driveways.
Well, in my view, I grant the application. I don't see, I mean, as much as we might prefer, from a planning point of view, common driveways, we've already got a disturbed position, property there. We've a piece of land there. It's gonna be disturbed going in, a different direction. All in order to eliminate a curb cut in an area where it doesn't look to me like on that side of 3 Mile Harbor, was that?
Yeah.
Hog Creek.
Hog Creek.
Said Hog Creek is easy. On that side of Hog Creek, it doesn't look like it's overwhelmed with curb cuts. So I would grant that application, but certainly.
I agree.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You want to hear anyone?
I agree too, especially since this has been in use for so long. And my only question is like, why hasn't this come up?
Yeah, that's actually.
The prior owners between 1974, 76 and 2018, when the land trust acquired the property, no one applied for C of O.
Did they drive?
But there are plenty of people drive by with eyeballs and can see that, and if they're affected by it, I think they would say something, I don't know.
No one noticed it, and the town's trigger usually is somebody comes in for something and the town searches the file and says, oh, wait a second, we can't do this.
Yeah, it seems to have had an innocuous life, so I support it.
Innocuous, I like that. All right, Mr. Booth, I know you've written 3 letters on this, and, this is not, it's not, oh, you had one in this morning. So it's not a public hearing. Ordinarily, we don't, any comment that you make is for informational purposes. We'll take comments from the public to tell the board things that we don't necessarily know about topography or, road conditions or whatever it is. So I'll give you 3 minutes, which I know you would like. Give me a moment to get my clock.
This is an application. This is an application to modify a subdivision. No, this is preface.
No.
You haven't decided whether or not there'll be a public hearing.
I won't, look, we permit the public to speak at work sessions as a courtesy. Give me a moment, and because it doesn't exceed 3 minutes in any event. And I just want to be able to find my little clock here and there and reset, and now go.
One of the issues you have to decide is whether or not there'll be a public hearing to consider the granting of a modification of this subdivision. That hasn't even been discussed. So I don't know if there will be a public hearing. I'm going to assume that there won't be. Let me make a couple of brief points. If you had taken this opportunity to look at my 4 letters of submission, one of the things you would have seen, so it's part of the record, is a photograph of the existing driveway that's very much clear and was very much in use. This is attachment to my September 23rd letter.
It was in the report and we all did see it.
The committee, Mr. Miller, took great pains to try to enforce the planning board's policy of ensuring common driveways. The reason why there aren't a hell of a lot of driveways as you go along this scenic area of 3 Mile Harbor, and the reason why it's protected by scenic easement is because of the work of the planning board. There are 4 houses up and down the road that share driveways. One's at 175, 3 Mile Harbor. And there are several right in the immediate vicinity, both before, to the south, and to the north. So you're now going to say that because the planning board did a good job of minimizing conflicts and requiring common easements, that therefore we don't have to do a good job. That's, sorry, a bad position to take. Also, let me read to you from and it's all part of your record, from the April 20th, 1977 letter of rejection, in essence, of the second modification application request, where the new attorney for the owners decided that he wanted to flip-flop the location of the common driveway. Final paragraph states in this April 20th, 1977 letter, while the committee is willing to reconsider modifications which would improve subdivision layout, it does not generally look with favor upon flip-flopping to the whims of every potential purchaser. Normally, a good amount of time is taken by the owner and/or his attorney and committee, meaning himself, to reach original agreements, and time-consuming afterthoughts are not always that great. The scenic easement, as I provided to you in the document, stretches the entire length of the property. The one and only exception to the recorded scenic easement is that 20-foot access strip, which is referred to as being required to be a common driveway. That's the one driveway access that was required. There is only one map that shows the subdivision, and that was submitted in 1976. You have to consider that as your starting point, not your ending point. So let me just suggest that since Peconic Land Trust is in the process of improving, developing, I don't know what they're going to do with the property, but they do have an application for a septic upgrade. There must be a contour map that you can request, or that's already in existence. There is no reason to doubt, and your planner doesn't doubt, that a driveway that was cut right through to reach the house directly from the common driveway cannot be made in a way that conforms to your standards. All I'm saying is there's no good reason to go back just because.
I got, you're past 3 minutes and I hear you. I mean, it's up.
Yeah, I'm sure the applicant spoke for no more than 3 minutes, right?
You're not the applicant.
No, but you said that you do allow participation in the work session. Let me just finish my thought.
Please, I said, finish your thought. Go ahead.
The board establishes a policy, the board should apply it. Just because a new owner comes along and puts in his fancy, narrow cobblestone curb cut and then has the audacity to put boulders to block the continued use of a driveway that was probably put in place so as to comply with the planning board is not a reason to allow the Peconic Land Trust to willy-nilly change this without even you having any factual basis to determine that a safe driveway cannot be designed and implied coming from the common driveway.
Thanks very much. Let me ask you a question. Did we get any applicant? Not you. Thank you. Did we hear from the neighbor, the one who put in the driveway, the larger driveway, if you will?
We have not, no.
Do they know about this application?
I'm not aware if they do or not. They're not required to be noticed unless you hold a public hearing.
And what's the parameters for holding a public hearing?
Well, it really is your discretion. If you feel that the modification has enough of an impact on a neighboring property or on the community as a whole that it warrants the hearing, then you can hold one. But there really isn't anything codified as far as, if A, B, C, and D, then you must hold a hearing or you can't hold a hearing.
Let me ask you 2 more questions. North, immediately from that property, there appear to be 1, 2, 3 houses, maybe?
Yep.
Do they share a common driveway? There you go. Do those 3 properties share a common driveway onto Hog Creek?
They appear to, and if I'm remembering this correctly, when I did the research, that is actually a very similar subdivision. And actually, Tina, if you don't mind, if you could kind of drag the screen a little bit so that you can see to the east. All right. Sorry. Technical difficulties. But in looking at this, you can actually see, and if you look in the presentation materials, zoom out a little bit and then move 3 Mile Harbor Road to the left. There you go. This subdivision is these 4 lots here, the subdivision that we're talking about, the minor subdivision. So it seems to no longer be a contested fact that the subdivision intended for there to be a common driveway for lots 1 and 2. Lot 1 is the subject parcel, coming off of 3 Mile Harbor. And then off of Copices was the access for the 2 rear lots.
That's different driveway, not a pass through completely. Okay.
The subdivision, I just want to answer this
No,
question before I forget.
I want to deal with the idea of curb cuts.
Yeah, so the subdivision to the north is a very similar configuration. There are 5 lots here, though. This lot, this 1, 2, 3 take access off of Copices, and then these 2 lots take access off of 3 Mile Harbor. So it's very similar in its construction to the subject subdivision.
South of it, it looks like there's another, is that one house?
Yeah, there's one that fronts on the road, and then there's actually 2, I believe, there.
Do they have a common driveway?
I don't believe
I
so.
don't think so either.
But I don't know that for sure.
Well, one is.
But I remember it did strike me when I was doing the research and looking at that subdivision to the immediate north, that it had a very similar configuration to this one.
I think there's a legal question here, though. That is, if the land trust wants to get a CO, the scenic easement along 3 Mile Harbor Road does not allow for
That's
the
correct.
existing drive.
Yes, it does.
All right, let's hear from the.
Can I just make one point and then hear from the applicant? So, I mean, I guess, so this does change some of, I have to admit, and I apologize for the confusion. This changes some of, the analysis that the planning department has given you, because our understanding was that the question here was whether or not there was ambiguity of the requirement for a common driveway. It seems that does not exist.
Right.
In light of that, so, again, with any modification, the board sort of has, in consecutive order, 2 charges. One is to determine if there's a change of circumstances, a legitimate change of circumstances, something, whether it be information that was not present to the original board when they made their decision. The applicant's attorney has offered that is the lack of topographical information in the file. The file, as many are from the early 70s, is very scant. We can double check that, but I don't remember ever seeing any of the subdivision maps having topography on them. That being said, that may be a basis for a change of circumstances. However, from there, you are supposed to determine whether or not the change is in the interest of good planning. So what I would say is, and you had asked us directly if we were designing this subdivision today, would we require a common driveway? And the answer is absolutely yes. You would not design a single driveway to run through a scenic easement. That being said, I will, obviously, I'm sure the applicant's attorney wants to speak further, but I would suggest that I think at this point, the most constructive thing for the board would be to have an updated survey that illustrates where the scenic easement was supposed to be on the front of the property, as well as topography.
Yeah, that's what I really.
And then a demonstration of whether or not a driveway that can not exceed a 12% slope, which the applicant's attorney is correct. The code mandates that you can't exceed that, whether or not that is feasible as a branch off of the common driveway.
Also, since it sounds to me, and you can just see it because it's like stares you in the face, since the neighboring property, the one that put the Belgian block in, and would be impacted by this. Well,
you may want to hold a hearing.
Do we, hold a hearing?
Yeah, it's discretionary, as Eric said,
well,
but it's
certainly, now, but before we get to the point of holding a hearing, I think what we need from the applicant is more evidence that there's a slope issue here, that that it's not viable to do the driveway where you propose it. So
I'd like to hear what Rick.
Yeah, I would.
And that was all I had to say on the show.
That's valuable points because they clarify a lot of issues.
Good job. The scenic easement that was requested contemplated only an access for the common driveway. So in order to comply with the subdivision requirements, you have to record an easement that takes that whole section of frontage out of use.
Yeah.
And that was done. There's an easement recorded. So
go ahead.
The easement says nothing about removing the existing driveway. When the town began to accept scenic easements in the early 1970s, they put a chapter into the town code. It used to be chapter 16, it's now chapter 22. It has always had a section there that says, when a scenic easement is granted to the town, any existing structure has the right to remain, unless the scenic easement specifically calls for its removal. So the scenic easement is not a bar to keeping the driveway there, because it was predates the scenic easement.
It's grandfather.
Yes.
That's arguable.
Well, all right.
Look at the code, and that's
You know what?
always been how the town has interpreted that section of
I
the code.
think you see where, does anybody else want to add anything on this before we?
No,
I think we've covered this pretty deeply. I think you see what we need.
Yes, and I think that's perfectly fair. Well,
Thank you.
we don't have it. I'm pretty sure from talking to PLT, I don't think they have a topo map ready, but so we'll have to prepare one. So we'll do a topo map and
also,
do that analysis.
If you're arguing that there's been a change in circumstances, maybe it might be a good idea to find out, you know, he might have to get a little dusty going into wherever the heck they keep these things, but you might want to find out just what they had at the time when the decision was made regarding topography, because really
I think what we have is
but
what the planning department's found the
what I
phone
don't want to do
files.
is rely on anecdotal, oh, this guy was, you know, he was the committee, and maybe he was the, so let's see what the records that we do maintain say.
I think the department found all the records. All the maps have no topo, which was common practice for subways.
And that doesn't surprise me to learn this.
But we'll do
There's a lot more
a
land
topographical
back
map, show the scenic easement, all that.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going on to the next thing, which is, sorry, on my menu, yes. Is that the number? 407. 407 Westlake Drive. That is Tina, that is Sharon, and is the applicant. Well, Sharon, seal it. It's okay, very good.
No, how you modify scenic.
Okay.
Public referendum.
Yes.
That's how serious you get.
What kind of public referendum?
Okay, this is, are we good to go? 407 Westlake Drive. This is a preliminary site plan application. As you can see, I have the site plan / survey up right now. The application is being made to permit the demolition of an existing building and construction of a new 2-story building with 6 399 square feet units, a swimming pool at 407 Westlake Drive. So here's the building footprint, and then here's the outline of the pool and the pool patio. The proposed units would not have kitchens. 8 parking spots are proposed in the rear of the lot, and a one-way ingress and one-way egress. Access ways on each side of the building to Westlake Drive are also proposed. A new IA system is also part of the proposed scope. Regarding the zoning designation is RS Resort. Regarding the issues for review, we believe this project would be a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 128 of the Town Code. However, as proposed, they would need a variance for the density. If that remains part of the application, it could get moved to an unlisted action. But the planning department's recommending that it be revised to be compliant with the town code. Regarding the dimensional conformance of the preliminary site plan, they're requesting authorization for 6 399 square foot units with a lot area of 18,206 square feet. Based on the RS zoning, the density permitted as of right would be 5 units. So the application at 6 would require a variance. The planning department recommends that the project be amended to be compliant with town code. With respect to lot coverage, as proposed, the site plan is compliant with the requirements in the district. Regarding setbacks, the primary structure, the principal building and the pool seem to be meeting setbacks, but the parking in the rear of the lot is within 15 feet of the rear setback line. And though the planning board has the authority to reduce accessory structure setbacks in the code, the site is adjacent. The parcels here are Residence B zoning occupied by existing residences. Thus, the board may not want to exercise the discretion in this case and request the applicant to review alternate locations for parking. The building height is supposed to be 2 stories. The actual height wasn't provided. And the floor area requirements seem to be met. The units are below the 450 that we use for a transient motel. Regarding site layout and access, the site visit did reveal that there are several large trees on site, so we did think that it would be appropriate to consider those in the planning. I'm just going to show some of the photos from the site visit. Here's the existing structure, existing fencing and parking area. The rear area of the property is well vegetated, not a lot of large trees though. The large trees are really in the side yards. And I'm just showing those, this lovely one. And this is a really large oak in the rear portion of the property. So we suggested that they consider alternate sign layouts that would preserve those trees and show the location of the significant trees on the site plan. Also, the applicant's required to provide 20-foot access ways, and they're providing 2, so we suggested that they may consider a more efficient site layout. And also the fire marshal commented, and they have to manage the fire marshal requirements. Back to the parking, 8 spaces have been provided, and with confirmation that the units would be 6 bedrooms, that would be the number that's required. However, we were suggesting moving the parking. We suggested it might be more appropriate closer to the pool area. This would allow a buffer to remain intact at the rear of the property and let the site achieve the setbacks. A second alternative, although not preferred, is to put the parking in the front where it is. And with that, we would suggest that substantial landscaping be provided to shield the parking stalls. And then, of course, when for the formal submission, the drive aisle dimensions should be shown. Regarding the pool requirements, just a reminder to the applicant that Suffolk County Department of Health Services requirements for public pools are fairly robust, so they should consult with the health department early to ensure that their pool equipment can fit and meets their requirements. For this formal submission, we're suggesting reminding to look at the standards and the code regarding what is required to be submitted. This was the only piece of material at this time, and it's an early, initial review, so that's fine, but there's a lot of detail that is still needed regarding the application should it move forward. Sanitary systems, the applicant will need system details and sanitary calculations. None of that was provided as part of this. Drainage and stormwater control will also be required in accordance with the town code. Regarding noise, we're suggesting that the utilities be placed inside the building or within an enclosure to reduce the potential for noise disturbances. Regarding historic and archaeological resources, the site is within a historical an archaeological buffer zone, but due to prior disturbance, we are not recommending a phase 1A be required. That's for the board's consideration if they think one's necessary. Other approvals that would be needed with the application are listed as well: ARB, Architectural Review Board, Department of Health Services as noted, and the Zoning Board of Appeals if the density variance is requested. We've then listed our landscaping and lighting guidance regarding if the applicant were to move forward, what the formal plans should contain with respect to those features. So in conclusion, as a preliminary application, the board should consider if the proposal is consistent with good planning practices and offer their overall guidance for the application. The planning department is recommending the board consider whether the density is appropriate and if the parking in the property's rear setback is appropriate or if it should be moved to an alternate location on site, as well as considering the driveway.
Thank you very much, Tina. Very thorough report on this one. Thank you. I see that the applicant is eager to tell us.
Yes, to make your job easy, actually. I haven't had a chance to talk to my clients, but given that the zoning board's running about 22 months these days, I know they're not going to want to go that route. We'll be conforming at the 5 units, and that takes that off the table. I have a
Is the
question.
applicant with you tonight? Is it, because it's a preliminary, so I just don't know if the applicant is here.
No,
No, it's just you. Okay.
I'm representing.
I
the
only see
applicant.
folks in the audience. That's why I was wondering if they were,
That's not my
if they were
client.
yours.
No.
Okay, sorry.
No.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's fine. We will make the parking conform. We will locate the trees. I'm not sure how well that is going to play out depending on where they are. If they're right in the middle of the property, it's probably going to be difficult. If they're on the sidelines, we could probably make it work because we now saw the fire marshal's comments and we'll make the access conforming to the 20 feet required by the code. And then basically we're going to be going to a formal application, bringing in plans for review that'll show the height and the units and their sizes, lighting, landscaping, drainage, IA design, and everything else that's required in a formal application.
Can you draw back, get a better idea of where on earth this is?
And also, I just had a question about how many bedrooms exist right now
Yeah.
In the house?
in the
In
two
the building?
units.
I don't know the answer to that.
Is it, I'm guessing it hasn't
I
been
find
used
CO.
as a motel in a while.
It's 2 units.
It said 2 units on the application,
Right,
and it looked like, the building
It's
had
like
like
a
a door
duplex
on
thing.
each side,
Mhm.
and there was like a car parked on either side, so.
No,
Don't
but
know
what
how-
I'm getting at is that it doesn't sound to me like it's been an active motel for a little while.
It's 2 rental spaces.
Oh, there,
It's 2 rental spaces
okay.
attached.
But it doesn't look like anyone's been.
Oh, yeah, there's people
renting?
living there.
Oh, there are,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
no, there's
Oh,
people
okay.
living there.
Not as a hotel though, right? Like more
No,
permanent,
it's-
seems kind of like.
No, yeah, I think it's 2 cottages attached.
And what is the structure just north of this? Because I can see the other,
It's another motel.
It's a hotel.
it's another hotel.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
That's a big, that looks like a large. What
it's
motel?
that white,
What-
it's the white one that's kind of like modern looking, sort
Yeah.
of deco. Whatever the name of it.
Thanks very much. Okay, this one is it's Sharon.
Yeah.
Well, tell us all about it.
Yeah, no, so I did go, it's, you know, it's a pretty small lot, and that's why I was asking how many bedrooms exist right now. Just to get an idea of what the increase in density it actually is in terms of bedrooms. You know, they're obviously willing to come down to the 5 units, which is great. In terms of, you know, looks like they're taking the recommendations of the planning department, which I think are good recommendations, just based on how tight the property is. They're kind of bringing it back off the property line a little bit, which is nice, and just going up. So we'll have to see if the pyramid, I'm sure they're gonna keep it within pyramid. And I think the trees are on the sides, right, Tina?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, sides and one in the rear.
The trees that I saw, you know, seem like they could be salvageable, so sounds like they're gonna look into that. And, no, I mean, there's not much else they can do with this, really. It's very concise. So as a preliminary, it sounds like they're taking the recommendations of the planning department, and so we'll see what it looks like when they come back.
What's the story with the pool? Are you keeping the pool? You getting
There
rid
is
of
no
it?
pool,
It
so
said,
they're adding a
well-
pool,
Oh, it's, then I read it
they're adding a
backwards.
pool behind.
I think that,
Oh, proposing, so I'm sorry.
I think the parking should be in the front.
You do?
Yeah, because for the back, if you visit the property, the back is on a pretty relatively heavy slope going down. So, and there's a lot of vegetation there, there's
A lot of
tree there,
vegetation, for sure.
But it does go down.
You know what, there was people in there, so I kind of
Well,
snuck
no.
back and went like this. And I felt like I was being a voyeur.
If you walk in the back where the building ends, then there's a little bit of property and then it slopes down.
I didn't notice,
And that's where-
I didn't notice it slowed down that much,
Oh, yeah,
but,
it does.
um,
And then there's a tree.
Yeah.
in
Does
the
it
back
a
there.
little bit, but I did
So
the
it'd
same
be a
thing.
shame to, first of all, I don't, it'd be hard to put the parking there, and it also would be a shame to get rid of that tree and all the vegetation that exists there. And I know it's not advisable to have parking in the front, but if I had to weigh getting rid of the tree and disturbing that vegetation in the back or having parking in the front. I would choose having parking in the front.
It just didn't seem that they could get that many spaces in the front, but maybe I'm wrong.
Could you bring the overhead up? Because I'd like
Well,
to see
we
what
can-
the, what
we
the
can do 1,
residential
2, 3,
neighbor
4, 5,
situation is in
6,
back. You know, because are we putting,
I mean, I'm okay with that. I just, yeah.
it looks like there's what, one house there? Is that a house?
Yeah, these are both houses. It's residence B zoning.
Pretty well buffered though.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point.
Well, if they're willing to come off that 15 feet too, and anyway.
Yeah, no, we're
I-
definitely willing to meet the setbacks, but the question is really, I need a consensus from the board, because parking in front is usually a big no-no with this
Yeah,
board,
I know,
and
it's-
now we're going that direction, but I'm sure my clients will be very happy to landscape it if that's the way we were going.
Does the resort zone go further south or south? The end of it.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it goes all the way to Duryea Avenue, which is where the boat ramp is.
All of this is resort, all of this is residential. They back up to each other.
Okay. And the motel next door has the parking on the side.
Uh-huh.
That's where your cursor just was, Tina. Yeah, no, south of it. What's that? That's a residence?
Yeah.
We might be able to try turning the building and trying the head-end parking on the side too.
That might not be a bad idea.
I don't think putting.
Yeah, I really feel strongly about not putting the parking in the back.
Because you're disturbing
If
the
you visit
land.
the site, it becomes very clear that that would really be disturbing the vegetation that's there. There's a tree. It's just a shame to get rid of all that, just to have parking when you can have parking in the front. If they buffer it, I think the negative aspects of having parking on the road are mitigated by preserving that.
Yeah, because they already have the
And it-
gravel there.
Yeah, it looks pretty disturbed in front.
Are you assuming that vegetation may be cut down to put the 5 units?
No,
No, that
no,
won't, but
That's
the
not what they're
pool,
doing.
but the pool's gonna be back there.
So how much
No,
of
the
that's gonna be
vegetation
left?
was gonna be taken down to put the parking. I'm talking about where they have
addition.
the parking. If you look at the plan, they have this parking spaces there now.
Right now, the parking is in front, yes.
No, right?
No, it's in the back.
Yes.
No, no.
No, it's-
Free parking, yes.
Yeah, no, she
Yes.
meant,
No, I don't mean right now on their plan. I mean right now currently on the
yeah,
ground.
yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Right now.
Yeah, right, that's where the parking is. And how far back is the
So this
pool?
is all
gonna- That's,
vegetated,
that,
Randy, is what he's saying. This is all
that's the
vegetated.
pool. That rectangle on the left is the pool.
The whole site's gonna be clear.
No, I don't think
No.
so.
No, not if you get rid of the,
How much coverage are you allowed?
We are
80%,
total lot 75%.
75?
We're not gonna use all
But
that.
yeah, you're not there
5
yet, right?
units and 9 parking spaces.
Where's the parking now on the proposal?
right,
Oh, the
that's the
proposal
back. You
the
see
back
those
one.
lines?
Yeah, but I'm, like,
No, you mean existing currently?
no, on this proposal.
Oh, on the
way back.
proposal,
it's in the back.
I'm just trying to, oh, I see it now, okay.
And that's where the tree and the vegetation is
Yeah.
now.
Got it.
Let's go around the table. Sharon, you went, Randy, go next, please.
The whole idea of putting parking behind buildings is so that you don't have to look at it when you're driving by. Sort of a planning and aesthetic decision the town made a long time ago. And that's been the policy. Put the parking behind the buildings. You don't have to drive by and look at parking lots.
And I agree with that policy, but if, sometimes you need to look at an individual property and apply, and if you apply a general policy that doesn't fit to that.
I don't think you're gonna get what you're looking for, Lou, when this is all built. And there's not gonna be a lot of vegetated open space.
Well, for one thing, there's a giant tree where they have parking right now. See, on the
Maybe you
plan.
keep the tree in the parking lot.
How do you get the cars? I mean, is it in the middle of where the cars pull out?
Kind of.
I mean,
So you lose the
It's kind of
parking.
off to the
There's
side.
the
You
tree,
can't
and
really
that's
see,
where the
but
parking is supposed to go.
Do we know how healthy that tree is?
you can design around a tree. We don't get very, we're not very good at doing parking lots in East Hampton, honestly. We just tend to do a big macadam. Other parts of the country, they put a lot of trees and vegetation and break up the asphalt.
Other places in the country, they have more land to play with. So, I mean, the one thing I would say is, well, I'll go around. Anything else on that?
You know,
So you're leaning towards parking, but not in the front.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna be keeping a score on.
I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, on the subject of parking, I like what the other hotel has along on the side like that. I like that.
Yeah, that's all I got.
And Lou, you would be okay with that too?
Look, I would prefer that than to put the parking in the back.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Lou, if you
But
look
see,
at, look at that hotel next door, how much open space is there around that? That's what you're gonna get.
Well, that's a much bigger building than we're going to be able to
They have
get.
Many more.
They're pre-existing non-conforming with regards to many things, setbacks, lot coverage, total lot coverage.
No, they're keeping the building pretty much as it is, just going 2 stories, Randy. So they're not trying to cover.
We're limited with the transient motel unit sizes. We can't make a very large motel building.
Let Michael go and then you.
So I just finally, I just think that you're going to put the pool in the way back then. That's what I imagine the new layout would be. Sam made a great point. Like, what is the health of that big oak in the back? How
I
old
don't
is
know.
that
And that
tree?
both trees need to be assessed
Yeah.
because they look a little wiry to me. So I'm not sure. We'll have someone look at it because we're going to have to develop a landscaping plan anyway.
Very good. Very
Mhm.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty open-minded about the application. I think that, the planning department team did a great job of telling you, what the code says and, this is zoned for what you're proposing. So I think you have some leeway on design. This is a preliminary, so obviously looking for some guidance. I would say that one, ingress and egress would be preferable.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's less coverage, there's more room for other things.
Mm-hmm.
But take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, because this is very early in the process. And,
Sure.
Again, if you are code compliant, I think that goes a very, very long way.
Mm-hmm.
As far as parking goes, I think Randy pointed out, we've, as long as I've been a part of the community, we've been, as they say, mullet planning community, with the business in the front and the parking in the back. So that would be my starting point. But
Say it again, sorry.
Parking in the back. I think that
You like parking in the back.
Well, that's what we're guided, the guidance and the code directs us to do that.
Mhm.
I agree with Lou that there's special cases.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly open-minded to have parking in the front. The one caveat to parking in the back is that, if you're abutting a residential zone, we're not going to be very likely to relax the setbacks if it's not necessary.
I don't think we need to.
I don't think we need to either.
No.
So I don't know enough about the property or the space, so I'm open about parking. And the same thing with turning the building sideways. That would be a very different design. Wouldn't have a real problem with it, but I think we then would have to talk about setbacks, especially to the south. Because is that still a resort district there?
I believe it's a resort district, but it's a residence. Yeah, I'm almost positive it's that.
It is resort district.
Yeah.
I think that you open up I think it's an interesting idea and you should explore it.
Okay.
But with the way it's laid out with the pool behind the building, I'm not sure that it's going to fit with what you're trying to do. So I don't have incredibly strong opinions. I think the only thing that I've said that maybe we haven't talked a lot about is if you can have one curb cut, seems like it's achievable. It would help you save a tree. It would help you, I think it'd just give you more room to work. I have a slight leaning towards parking in the back, but if you, if you do it in the front and make it work and it looks nice, I'm open, and I certainly don't want to have a tug of war here where you can't please any of us.
Good point.
But I'm only one man, so.
Thanks very much, Ian. Lou?
Yeah, I'm sticking with my parking.
And the best.
That's your story and
I welcome everyone to go visit the site, and I think if you look around, you'll change your mind about the parking.
Let me ask you a question. Just how much in your mind about putting it in the front has to do with the unnamed street, which is the name of that street, that dead ends directly in front of, that one. The dead ends. Is that part of your aesthetic thinking?
No, not really. No, I'm more for preserving
You're more about the back.
the vegetation.
I think that's an entrance to a marina.
Yeah, it's gonna,
Yeah.
it's an entrance.
I'm sorry?
It's an entrance to.
It's an entrance to a marina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just noticed on the
Yeah.
photo, it's called unnamed street.
Yeah, I mean, that's a busy area there. There are all kinds of establishments.
The thing I'm wondering about is, they're gonna put the pool in back. And we haven't seen a landscaping plan, so we don't really know exactly what it's gonna look like. But in your mind, anyway, they're gonna have a pool in the back, but they're also gonna have this undisturbed wooded area.
Pools require double setbacks. And then what do you think is more noisy, a pool or parking? As far as the neighbors.
Pool.
But a parking lot could be disturbing to the neighbors.
No, I know, but the
the
pool is
lights.
pretty, in summer pools are pretty noisy.
Yeah, so I'm definitely open to the project too. I think it's a smart move to go to become zoning compliant and avoid the ZBA, absolutely.
I'm sure they'll be happy to hear you say that.
Right. Well, no, I'm just from a time point of view. I have great respect for the ZBA. And I'm sympathetic to Lou's point of view about the vegetation. However, I think on a less than half acre site in which we're proposing to build a 6-unit motel, parking and a pool, 5 units, I'm sorry, parking and a pool, it's gonna be very difficult to maintain much. It's just practical, as a practical matter of building. I think, as everyone has said, that parking behind the structure is sort of the way that we've been going, right? And I think in this case, it still would work, but if there's some other configuration that could work, orienting the building differently, as you'd indicated, and putting parking on the side, that would work. And if a great proposal that screened parking in the front came our way, I'd be open to that too. But my general inclination is in the back. And I agree with Ian that one way in and out, one ingress, egress would be great. Less coverage, less paving.
Okay.
Pretty much echo what Ed said. I do think you should definitely go with one ingress, egress. It's a small lot as it is. Shouldn't have two. Count me as a reorient the building, parking on the side. I think that would accomplish a lot of what you're trying to do. Maybe give you a lot more flexibility with the parcel. If you can keep the back and vegetated as it is now, that'd be great. I have a feeling though that once we get the plans, the pool is going to require loss of some of that vegetation. And so the whole idea of parking in the front may go by the wayside, which is kind of why I'm, parking on the side, I think is the thing to do. But I think it's a good application, and I do think, well, kidding aside about the ZBA, I think it's better not to go to the ZBA on this, because it's such a small lot as it is,
Well, based on what they've written in the memo, it's not a good case anyway.
Yeah, and well, we don't want to predict what another board might do.
No.
The only thing to be careful with turning that building sideways, and you'll find this, I'm just not sure there's room with
Yeah.
setbacks,
Well, yeah,
We're looking at.
Setbacks and pyramid, because we're looking at
I know,
two-story.
Oh, that's right.
We're comparing it to a property that doesn't meet any of our current standards, so. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, you should look at everything, I'm open to it, but I don't want to fool ourselves into thinking that's
I think the good thing is that you're keeping it in a modest size, and you're not making some overwhelming monstrous
We
property.
can't. The transient motel has a very limited, it's a mixed limitation. Tina and I are gonna look into it. There's 2 different code definitions for what the size limitations are. But they're still small. Units are small. They're around
Yeah, it's
450 or something.
I mean, the building itself isn't so big to start, so.
Yeah, you can't get much larger.
1,600 feet or something like
Yep.
that, so.
Yep.
And it's a county road.
Yeah, I think it's a county road as well.
Yes, it is.
So they'll have something to say about the ingress.
Right now, the whole parking lot is a
Oh,
big
I
ingress.
hear local determination on that one.
Right now, it's
I don't want to
a
predict what another board's gonna do, but who knows? All right.
They can come in wherever they want.
That's what I was saying.
No, it's a county highway.
So Laura, you got what you need, or
Commission
that
gets that.
we just confuse you?
Well,
more?
no, I'm good. I mean, I think
I'm with parking in the back as
County.
well.
the back.
Yeah,
I was thinking.
if you can make it work.
In fairness,
You're
to
right.
Lou about that, I have
Yeah.
not visited the site. I visit most sites, but as a preliminary, I haven't yet, so
Yeah.
I just
if
think
what
with
he's
the
saying
pool.
proves to be really true when you're there, then.
got enough what you need?
Do you want to do the list?
Yeah, all right, thank you. No, I think we hit it all, but.
I think we did too. We didn't touch on
No,
art,
listen, page you nine, you get
the full preliminary review. No cheating.
Every little jot. Get your pen.
I have it.
Is the proposal consistent with good planning practices for this site, folks? Yes. Well.
With the fixes.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
the
yeah,
fixes.
yeah, yeah.
With the memo.
Well, we're following memo and
With the
one curb cut. Does the planning board agree that 6 units appropriate density for the site?
Five.
Five, yeah, I know. Why is it downside? Is there an office involved or something?
What?
No, why is it go from 6 to 5, right?
Because 6 was.
Side, yeah, it was, they would have to go to variance. The zoning board.
Okay, that's where it
Yeah,
comes
the zoning board.
from. No, 5. Does the planning board agree existing mature trees? Oh, actually, this is something I meant to say, that existing mature trees should be a consideration in site planning. I think, go find out the health of those trees. Because especially if you do the parking in the back, those trees may make parking in the back. Leaving them aside, taking them down, if you leave them up, you're may have a problem with using the 5 spaces or whatever it is in back. You might not be able to back a car in.
It should be in consideration.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
but start with the health of the trees.
Yep.
Does the planning board agree the proposed parking in the rear setback is acceptable, or should other parking locations on site be considered? Well,
We
you
went through
heard
that.
from us.
Yep.
Okay, is the applicant advised to coordinate with Suffolk County Health Department Services to approve disinfection requirements?
Yes.
Anyone gonna say no on that? I think so. Should the site plan conform to access way, parking, and drive aisle requirements of the code?
Yes.
Yes. Upon formal submission, should drainage and sanitary requirements of the code be followed?
Yes.
Mhm. These are all gimmies. Upon formal submission, should the applicant show the location of HVAC equipment and confirm noise code compliance?
It's a good
Not a
addition.
small issue.
It's a
these days.
preliminary, so they shouldn't do it.
Well, eventually. Does the planning, we're not talking, this actually is important. Does the planning board agree that due to prior site disturbance, a phase 1 archaeological study is not warranted upon formal submission?
Yes.
What do we think on that?
No, we agree.
Is that what
The
the
planning,
department
yes, the
said?
planning said it was not
We're gonna
necessary.
follow that guidance. Yes. Does the planning board wish to see formal lighting and landscaping upon formal submission?
Yes.
This would be the first time in history that we did.
Right.
There you are. Now you got your money's worth. Thank you very much. Finally, Civil and Realty. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience. Eric, that's yours. Sharon, last one for the night. I hope you've got some orange juice at home to soothe your throats.
It really wasn't that taxing. And 92 wasn't even on.
Yeah, I know. You said it got saved on that.
Which I've read every week for the
Yeah,
last
I
month.
know, but I feel like.
My thoughts are completely straight on that one.
That one you know, that one you wake you up in the middle of the night. All right, well, let's, thank you very much. Have a good night now. All right, Eric. it's yours.
Sylvan Realty?
Are you here on this?
Yeah.
Those are your fun.
Oh, I think.
No, I was gonna say.
I'm in the back.
All right.
You just love the planning board so much, and stay until the end.
Well, I'm down to my last.
He's had enough.
I act like that.
One guy.
Sometimes he's interesting.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So, yep, just trying to get the plan up for you here. Should take 2 seconds. Yep, I guess I am street showing, right? Okay, so there's a few remaining outstanding issues with this application. As you'll recall, they went to the zoning board a little while ago and got variances for the number of parking spaces for the site as well. There was also an issue with setback. The board at the last discussion or at the last meeting discussed landscaping on the site. This is a new landscaping plan. One thing that was asked for both by the department and the board was to add additional tall screening along 3 Mile Harbor Road. This site plan, by the way, up is not north, it's west. So this is 3 Mile Harbor Road here. They've augmented the screening on that side of the building with additional arborvitae of 5 to 6 feet tall. We find that acceptable. The board should determine if it agrees. One thing that was also asked of the applicant was to add additional screening along the rear property line here. However, the applicants in their submission stated correctly that under this configuration, you can clearly see it here, there really isn't additional room to put a staggered row or a second row of vegetation along that property line. We do note, though, that those plantings are also 5 to 6 foot tall evergreens. There's also a 6 foot stockade fence proposed along that property line. And then additionally, if the board remembers, and I apologize, this plan doesn't come up very clear, but there was a staircase and a concrete pad in this corner of the building. That has been removed from the plan and augmented with additional taller screening, which is actually 8 to 10 feet tall evergreen. So the board should basically determine whether or not the landscaping is sufficient on the site. The next item in my memo refers to lighting, but I'm going to save that for the end. Another thing the board had requested at the time of the last review was to relocate the dumpster. If you recall, it was located along the rear property line. Again, these are residential properties. It's been relocated to the front of the site near 3 Mile Harbor. However, the plans illustrate that the building, essentially the style of the building has been continued to conceal that enclosure so that it's not visible from the roadway. Another question was whether or not trucks could move with internal circulation on site. They submitted a plan that demonstrates that a 30-foot long truck can make safe and correct movements throughout the site. The fire marshal in their last comment said that no further information is needed. One thing I want to point out to the planning board is that the ARB reviewed this on October 27th. A lot of times with site plans, you'll leave the ARB approval and review for the end. Due to the appearance of the building, we had recommended that the applicants go to the ARB preemptively. The ARB, well, I attached their comments to our memorandum, but basically they had requested substantial redesign of the building. So that's something to take into account. As you read in our memorandum about the lighting, basically there was, well, 2 issues. One is that they proposed hi-hat fixtures on the overhang of the second story. Those fixtures themselves are compliant. They're fully recessed, but basically the bulb chosen was sort of twice the intensity that you would normally have, 20 watt. We recommend that they reduce it to about 9 watt LED. Provided they do that, however, that would meet the board's guidelines. One thing that was noted is in the submission that was reviewed for this memorandum, updated building floor and elevation plans had not been provided. And in fact, there was a notation on this plan that says the lighting information for the second story, which was an outstanding issue at the last review, is provided on those plans. Since the time of this memorandum, the applicants have submitted revised elevation plans that include lighting information. I did have a chance to review them. I do want to show them to you just as pertains to the lighting, just because provided the board is okay with the landscaping, then it appears that the lighting is the only outstanding issue. So hopefully these show up a little bit better. I can go through these if you'd like. These are the revised elevation plans, but really just as far as the lighting goes, what I wanted to draw your attention to is this is the hi-hat fixture that we identified. The fixture itself is fully shielded and compliant, but the bulb should be replaced. Since the time of this memo, again, we received these plans. There's another fixture that's illustrated here, which is this wall sconce here. Again, it's a little difficult to tell, but you can clearly see the bulb there that is unshielded. So that should be substituted with another light fixture. However, provided the applicants do that, we find the lighting acceptable. So basically, at this point, I think the 2 main remaining issues for the board are to consider the landscaping and whether or not you feel that's sufficient and provide sufficient screening. And then we would just recommend that they amend the lighting plan accordingly to meet the board's guidelines. If the board finds those acceptable, then the application would be basically complete. We would subsequently prepare an EAF parts 2 and 3 for the board. and then the application would move forward to a public hearing. I do, however, I would like to recommend to the applicants, and it's probably something for this board to consider, as to whether or not they should go back to the Architectural Review Board for a review of these changed elevation plans.
They've been submitted to the ARB?
They did, just the.
Today?
Yes, yeah.
So
Yep.
these elevations are in response to the ARB's comments?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
More squared off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I can go through them if you'd like, if you want to. But so basically, that's our point. As far as the outstanding items, it's really the landscaping and screening and the lighting, which could easily be fixed. But I would encourage the applicants to consider going back in front of the ARB for another review before you schedule a hearing, simply because if they don't, and the ARB still finds these unacceptable, and you schedule a public hearing based on these elevation plans that the ARB is not going to accept, you're going to have a modification request subsequent to your public hearing. You're going to be back. They're going to be back here. You're going to be talking about the elevation plan. So it would probably be more efficient as far as the process goes to have the ARB at least give a tentative approval at this stage in the review. So.
Thanks very much. Whalen, go right ahead.
No, I don't know if you want me to go through the elevation plans.
Let me I'll just make reference to them. I don't know how much.
You have the elevate, you going through the elevation?
Yeah, or
Just
should I
keep
go back
them
to
on
the
the screen.
landscaping plan? I mean, that was the first item of discussion, so.
But I would leave the site plan with the landscaping up if you could.
Sure. And I'll try and zoom
We
in.
can come back, when we have the board's discussion, so go right ahead.
Richard Whalen from Whalen Fowler PLLC, representing the applicant. The owner of the property is again here tonight, Rick Van Bensko. And with him, Dave Brown, who East Hampton native son, his father was Ken Brown, and Matt Tyler from Bowler Engineering, in case you need any of those people. First of all, as Eric indicated, we made an application to the ARB that was discussed back in October. I wasn't there for the meeting, but suffice it to say the ARB did not like those plans. So the architect went back to the drawing board. And as you can probably see from those elevations, this is more akin to the Daymark building. It's a flat roof structure, primarily. I don't know, maybe a little bit of gable in there someplace, but it's primarily a flat roof structure, cedar shingle on the outside for the most part. I'd be really surprised if the ARB didn't think this was a big improvement. They didn't like the last one. I personally think this is pretty nice, but I'm not on the ARB. All those fluting and all the things at the top, all gone. We're still under our allowed height, and I think fairly substantially. So I will discuss. Eric makes a very good point. I'll discuss it with the client. I don't know what the ARB schedule is. I mean, it used to be that you submitted to the ARB and you were on their agenda in like 2 weeks. I think we made the resubmission today. I think Dave did, and we may not be for them until January. So I don't know. But generally, one interesting point, by the way, that the ARB made, which kind of shocked me. Again, I watched the tape afterwards. They said, we don't usually see site plans until the planning board has approved them, which would be a nutty thing to do on a site like this. So it kind of surprised me. Maybe they're not used to seeing brand new commercial site plans or something, but I don't think you'd ever want to go through a project like this and not show it to the ARB before the planning board granted site plan approval. And I know Eric agrees with that point. So anyway, that's, it's a complete change in the architecture. Building's pretty much about the same size, but the design is very different. And as I said, I'll talk to my clients. In general principle, I would agree with what Eric said. I just don't know what the ARB schedule is. The other comments, as Eric indicated, is really just kind of the landscaping. Let me just say this about to my mind, obviously there's importance to landscaping along through Harbor Road, but on the east side of the property, you do have 3 residential lots. The northern 2 are fairly old, and there's also at that side of the property, there is I've been back and visited the site again. There's a pretty good bank on the right-hand side. It's almost like they dug out this parking lot when they built it, because it's down about 2 to 3 feet from Through Harbor Road. And the back eastern side, there's a bank about 4 feet high, really. The northerly 2 lots, these right here, both have 6 foot tall, approximately 6 foot tall stockade fences, kind of at the top of the bank. So they're pretty well screened, and those houses are also forward in the lot. The southerly lot doesn't have a stockade fence. The house is towards the back of the lot. I mean, I think to my mind, that's the thing that's most needs screening. And I think in your memo, Eric, you refer to the screening is generally on the east side. I thought we have some 8 to 10 foot red cedars in this area.
Sorry, I just flipped it 90 degrees on you. You want me to go back to the area?
Yeah, well, you'd have to look
It's
at
easier to see.
You have to look at the key.
But where were you pointing?
But somewhere in this area, I think we have 8 to 10 foot red cedars near that southerly house. I just wanted to confirm that. And we are proposing our own fence. I don't know how that'll work where the neighbor fences are, but we are definitely going to propose a 6 foot fence here. But like I said, there are existing 6 foot fences there.
But not on top of the bank or on top of the bank.
The neighbor's fences are on the bank, on the top of the bank. I don't know exactly where ours will be placed.
So if you're, and I've stood on that, I'm just curious, I've stood on that spot and the top of the stockade fence has got to be like more than 10 feet.
Because their bank's about 4 foot tall. It's very high. So that protects the northerly two houses.
Right.
I mean, that's really what I have to say, landscaping. Obviously, one of the big things the board wanted last time was the relocation of the dumpster area. That's been done. That will be integrated into the new design of the building. The stairway area, the southern, well, I keep saying southern because everyone is used to thinking that south is there, but it's not. In that area, eastern end of the existing building, that stairway and balcony have been removed. There's more room now for landscaping. There's no walkway there. And the last thing is the lighting, and the lighting is somewhat, the details of the lighting to some extent are contingent upon the design of the building, because minor changes in how the building is designed will affect the placement of your lights. I think Eric's concern though was more in the nature of the wattage used. So obviously we can address that. So I don't know whether we'll have an ARB review before we would come back to you. We'll see. I'm hoping that if we make these changes and they're acceptable to the board, then the next time we come back, before or after the ARB, that you'd be ready to schedule a public hearing.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of sense to what Eric's suggesting about having the ARB,
That might be the way to go.
I have a question for you. Do we know at all what the county, that whole border of the road and they're redesigning, I think they're rebuilding. Do we have any idea what's going to happen between your prop line and the pavement?
Eric?
I don't have any specific plans right now, although I will say that was something that came up at the last review, because previously the applicants had a substantial amount of landscaping and screening that was within the right of way, which is sort of that dotted area that you see there. They removed that, correctly stating that we have no control over what goes in there. But yeah, I mean, the direct answer to your question is no, I have not seen the plans for the redevelopment.
Have you applied to them for a curb cut, or you don't need to?
We've had plenty of communication with the county. No, we'll need we have an existing curb cut.
Okay.
I think we're changing it slightly, so I assume that we will need a DPW permit to however we tweak the driveway. Obviously, we're removing the driveway. I don't know if that permission is needed for that, but we've been in communication with the county DPW, and whatever permits they require, we'll obtain.
The curb cut is pretty close to the existing building, if my memory serves, as it presently exists. Yeah, there you are.
Yes, there's two.
Yeah, there's one down at the.
Are they two real curb cuts, or is one a de facto curb?
No, I drove out this one.
Just because you used it doesn't mean it's really.
No, they're two real curb cuts. They're actual.
So you have two actual curb cuts on 3 Mile Harbor?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the proposal's only one, and it's in the right place.
That's wow. Okay.
Hey, Rick, remind us, how tall is the vegetation that's along 3 Mile Harbor Road? I forgot.
Not much. There's one notable tree.
Yep.
Other than that, there's not much on 3 Mile Harbor Road right now.
Okay, Sharon.
Much improved.
Yeah, no, actually, I like the building better that you've come up with. It's more streamlined. I think we're really loving the whole gabled old house look. So hopefully the ARB likes it too. I think the lighting they're gonna take care of, it's really just the landscaping. And, you know, thank you for moving the dumpster. I think that's a huge improvement to get away from the residences. It's just really the landscaping and the fact that they don't have the space to double up on that back and that back line, and there's gonna be a fence and there's a bank. I'm not sure what else they can do there to make it any better than what it is. So I think it's sufficient.
I think I have some photos of that area too, which might help. If I'll look them up while you're having your conversation, just so in case you're wondering what's going on with the screen.
Thanks, Randy. You have anything you want to add?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what it's gonna look like looking, you know, when you drive by on 3 Mile Harbor Road. Not sure, it looks like it's fairly flat from the road. Where does it drop down?
It drops down. It drops down. It drops down pretty well.
So the screening.
Fortunately, I can't just
That's a
scroll through
different time of
these.
year.
Yeah. An empty parking lot.
Yeah.
There's all that greenery now. I don't know. If to see all the green.
These are from about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Hands on the.
Well, we can keep going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just.
Yeah.
Anything else, Randy?
No.
Michael?
Nothing to add.
Ian?
Yeah, I think it looks good. I think the dumpster move was key for the neighbors. I'm glad that you were able to work that out. Hopefully that wasn't a problem with the ARB. I'll just say that as far as the architecture goes, I'm not gonna nitpick that. I think that's the ARB world. I'll focus on the planning elements, which I think are generally good. One question about the arborvitae in the front. My Latin's not very good. The arborvitae you're planning are not green giants, right? They're more compact. I just want to make sure that that's true. You don't even have to answer that if you can't, but I'm sure that they're not. I don't know the.
Yeah, I don't think that we have any dark green. It's Matt Tyler with Bowler Engineering. Can you just tell me one more time?
Well, the green giant arborvitaes are huge, and if you plant them at 5 to 6 feet tall, in 20 years, you're gonna have a problem unless you really maintain it. So just make sure, I'm sure that they're emerald or something different, but
just. We have the dark American arborvitae that we're providing.
Okay, great. Otherwise, I think, you know, I think it looks good. I think the landscaping is good. I'm glad you were able to contain that all on your lot, so the county can do whatever they're gonna do and you're not interfering. And it seems like the flow is something I was worried about. 30-foot box truck is not, you know, I think that's sufficient. So I'm very supportive. I also think, to your point, Rick, I'm glad that you went to the ARB first. I think it makes sense to harmonize the applications because, as Eric pointed out, we don't want a modification, but I'm not going to get too involved in the aesthetics there because I think you have work to do with them, or perhaps it's been done to their satisfaction at this point. We just don't know yet. So, yeah, this project has come a long way, and I'm supportive, and I think it's complete and ready for a public hearing now, or once you're satisfied that you won't have to change the plan based on the ARB comments.
Yeah, I think we've come a long way. We've been through a lot, made a lot of changes, so I think we're there. I agree with Sharon and everyone else. As far as the ARB, I watched that meeting as you did, Rick. And boy, did they make pointed comments. They basically, they didn't pull any punches. They excoriated the poor person there. That was you. Right?
Dave went by himself.
No, and I learned a lot. I mean, they delved into areas that I didn't think of, but I guess that's why they do what they do. But I agree with Eric. I think you should get that all cleared before we have a public hearing. That's all I have to say.
Thanks. And then?
I think everything's been covered. Let's move ahead.
There you go. Yeah, I agree. It just is a practical matter. If the ARB is moving as fast as it seems that they are, then, you won't be held up too terribly long by waiting for them and then coming to us, and then we'll do the public hearing. We're lead agency, so, let's lead.
Well, the only other thing is the lighting plan. you understand the deal, but before it's complete, you probably won't wait for the ARB, but just make sure that the bulbs are all good and the fixtures are good, because that.
Yeah, I think Eric's memo makes it pretty clear what we have to address.
Yeah. I just don't want to leave that as a.
Oh, no. You
No,
don't
no,
want
no, wait,
to, you don't want to stop with the lighting plan.
The next time you come back before us, you're not gonna want that to be the reason that we don't, presumably, if it's ready, say it's complete and ready. All right. Thank you
Housing.
very much.
Rick, what about the
Yeah,
housing?
there is public, there is housing.
The covenants on the housing. We haven't had but are these gonna be inspected and approved?
I think, I believe so. I think that, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I believe I think we have to file covenants, Karen, and I think that, I'll put the housing office. I think the housing office has to have some oversight, because they need to know that they're being rented to compliant people. Not that I think they're gonna be excellent Airbnb locations.
Now,
You never know.
You want to say that on the record? All right.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, folks, listen, we have another meeting next week, and then that's the end of 2022. Thank you very much, and appreciate your patience and sitting there the whole time. But somebody has. We have our meeting next week, and that is it for the year. Next week, we're gonna have a deal of, well, we're gonna have that. The Wayne Scott Commercial Center is on the agenda, and there's gonna be a lot of homework and what to read in your packet.
It's Christmas, come on.
So Eric brought.
Yeah, don't forget to take
Oh,
your books.
He brought it for everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Merry Christmas. I got you. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
That's very Grinchy of you.
I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?